Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Thursday afternoon. We got a good show for you guys today. See if you can stick around for the next hour as we go around the nation for some of the best stories and progressive political commentary from around the nation. Important stuff today we're going to talk about, including did Ivanka Trump and Kellyanne Conway violate the Hatch Act. So that's actually kind of important. And I'll explain, of course, if you guys are unfamiliar what it is, what the Hatch Act is and what it means and how they may have or probably did violate it. Then we have, of course, a very important Supreme Court decision on electoral maps. Really important stuff. Then, we've got Donald Trump accusing Robert Mueller of crime. Hilarious. Then we have the effects of fetal personhood bills. We've already seen one in Alabama. You're going to be enraged by this story. It includes a shooting where the victim is in prison. I kid you not. And then Bernie Sanders, of course, is getting attacked for his response on ridiculous questions. We're going to break that down. Then, of course, like I said, we've got some stories. Before we get to it, I do want to do a quick little synopsis of last night's Democratic presidential debate. Just give you, my little opinion on it. So, of course, before I do that, I want to give some thanks. I'm very, very tired. Just to explain why, I'm all over the map today, I'm exhausted. I love the little kitty, but I don't get a lot of sleep so far. So, all right. Let's get to some patrons here. I want to thank Conroy Campbell, Daniel Luna, Darius Miles, Daryl Takara, and David J. Leclerc. So thank you to all those people who support us. Patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you can support the show. I know those of you who are asking about the kitten. I just tweeted a photo of the kitten earlier this morning. So he's incredibly cute. So check that out, Jeff's Politics. You can see our kitty. Okay. Anyway, so let's see. Let's get to the debate here. All right. So last night was the first presidential Democratic debate, and it was interesting. Okay, so obviously first takeaway is how the different candidates did. There were 10 candidates there, but you could kind of feel like there was 11. And a lot of people are saying that, and it's because it's true. Who was the 11th candidate? It was Bernie Sanders. Because a lot of people echoed what Bernie Sanders has been talking about. Now, some interesting, fun highlights from that included Medicare for All. Now, this was something that wasn't really talked about all that much previously and was derided back in 2016. So now the moderators had asked, who here would be would want to get rid of private insurance in favor of a Medicare for All system. Only two people raised their hands, Bill de Blasio and Elizabeth Warren. Now, last night was kind of important because we finally got the answer from Elizabeth Warren when it came to Medicare for All, as she had been a bit wishy-washy over the last couple of months. Then, in the last week or so, she signed a progressive pledge that said that I'm going to be fighting for these issues. One of those issues included Medicare for All, Green New Deal, etc. So she gets on stage, and she and Bill de Blasio are basically the only ones that raised their hand when they said they want to get rid of private insurance. Now, it's kind of a BS question because in reality, Medicare for All would, yes, eliminate duplicative coverage. So, for example, if Medicare for all, which covers a lot, it covers vision, right? So it covers like eye surgery or whatever. Well, that means that private insurance can also cover eye surgery. But if Medicare for all, for example, doesn't cover things like a facelift or a boob job, well, then there's a role for supplementary insurance. It doesn't ban all private insurance. It just eliminates duplicative coverage. It says that if you're an insurance company that's running for profit, then you're not allowed to basically try to cover this. We already have it covered, so you're barred from covering it. That means you can focus on doing basically elective things. So that's what they're saying. And so it was a bit of a trick question. Nonetheless, Elizabeth Warren and now all the, of course, media, the pundits and stuff are saying, oh, she took such a big risk. How? Medicare for all is supported by 77% of all Americans. Oh, but yeah, there's a large majority of Americans that don't want you to eliminate private insurance. They like your private insurance. Yeah, but if you tell them that this private insurance is going to be replaced by something better that has no copays or deductibles, people are going to be like, oh, well, yeah, Medicare for all, obviously superior. Obviously, we're going to be in favor of this. So that's the Medicare for all question is really, really important, as I said before. There are a couple of great moments. Tulsi Gabbard, give her a lot of credit, versus Tim Ryan. So Tim Ryan wrongfully said that he that it was the Taliban that attacked us in 9/11. Now, the Taliban didn't have anything to do with 9/11. That was Osama bin Laden, Al Qaeda, which he of course quickly corrected him. And Tim Ryan's terrible, by the way. So it was Tim Ryan, John Delaney, Beto O'Rourke, who just did some of the most cringiest answers. Those were the definite losers in that debate. Elizabeth Warren looking very strong. Bill de Blasio, of course, also did very well. Julian Castro, actually, he didn't slip up. He didn't really stand out all that much, but he also didn't mess anything up. Cory Booker looked like he did fine during the debate. And again, this is all subjective, right, as far as performance goes. And the rest, I mean, Jay Inslee, I guess Jay Inslee you could put as sort of a loser in the debate. And why do I do that? Why do I put him there? He's supposed to be running his entire campaign on climate change, right? I think they spent probably about 10 minutes on climate change during that entire debate. And Jay Inslee did not push hard enough on climate change. He didn't push hard enough to fight against climate change. And when he was asked what the biggest national threat is, he didn't even mention climate change. I think he mentioned Russia. I was like, wait a minute. You're supposed to be the guy that's running on climate change. Why would you say, oh, no, it's the Russians. The Russians are definitely the biggest geopolitical foe. Whereas Elizabeth Warren was like, no, it's climate change. I mean, come on. Come on. So, no, obviously, there's going to be quite a few people that are going to be that should be out. John Delaney, a great example of who should definitely drop out of the race after this debate because he did absolutely terrible. And so, I think after this, I'd probably Inslee and Beto O'Rourke definitely should just drop. He did terribly in the debate, probably the worst. Even though I kind of reserved the worst for John Delaney because he was consistently garbage. And all of his positions are consistently garbage. He sounded like he was in a Republican debate. And it's for the moderators. Well, I guess I'm not really shocked that he thought he was in a Republican debate because all of the questions were framed from the right wing. So, oh, I'm sorry. It was Well, who was the one then that actually said it was Russia? That maybe that was De Blasio. So apologies, I'm like super tired. Inslee said Trump was the biggest threat to the USA. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. It's still a kind of a bad answer because climate change is the biggest threat to the USA. It's also the biggest threat to the world. So, Hickenlooper, I don't remember seeing Hickenlooper there. If I was there, if he was there, nobody noticed. So, but yes, okay. Thanks for you for the correction. Inslee still did pretty bad. It was De Blasio that said that Russia was the biggest threat. But come on, De Blasio. Like, he actually did have a strong debate throughout, and then at the end, he's like, Russia. Oh, come on, man. Really? Come on. Okay, anyway. Yeah, Hickenlooper, I believe, is tonight. And then you have Biden. Look, tonight's going to be Biden versus Sanders. I think. So that's what's going on here. Biden versus Sanders. Okay. All right. So that's my quick take on the debate. Now let's get to some stories. Okay. Now, President Donald Trump on Wednesday accused former special counsel Robert Mueller of committing crime. Now, he said that Mueller had illegally terminated FBI communications as part of the Russia investigation. Now, let me give you the quote here. He said, Mueller terminated them illegally. He terminated all of the emails. Robert Mueller terminated their text messages together. He terminated them. They're gone. A lot of the use of terminated. I'm guessing perhaps he watched Terminator that previous night. I don't know. Now, this was during an interview with Fox Business Network. He continued by saying, after all the termination, that's illegal. That's a crime. Now, what was he referring to? He's referring to some of the text messages from two former FBI employees. Now, they had exchanged some negative messages about Donald Trump during the campaign. That's when he was candidate Donald Trump. And this, of course, was Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. Now, again, they didn't like President Trump. It's pretty clear from some of the text messages. But they also, and this doesn't get mentioned at all, they didn't like Hillary Clinton. They didn't like Bernie Sanders. They didn't like anybody. And they thought everybody was bad. Okay? Now, obviously, I disagree. Now, Trump made these remarks ahead of the Mueller's new scheduled testimony before lawmakers next month. So he's scheduled to, of course, go in front of Congress July 17th to, again, talk about his report. Now, my guess is going to be a lot of nothing, as he's already said that his report speaks for itself. Now, he agreed. I don't know why he agreed. He's not going to really add anything new, I don't think. And he's already said, look, I'm not going to add anything new to this. What I said is what I said. It's in the report. Just read it. In fact, okay, like you said, that is, he had come out afterwards and did congressional testimony saying just that, right? It's in the report. Just read it, you guys. That's it. Now, he claims that Mueller had committed crime, right? Well, okay, where's the evidence? Well, you're going to be shocked to find out that there's absolutely no evidence. Wow. So now let's go to the facts, right? So what happened, right? Now, the Justice Department had publicly released thousands of texts. However, for a short time, apparently, they had struggled to recover certain messages from a period before and after the 2016 election, right? So now, the reason that they couldn't recover some of these texts is because they said it was a technical issue. Now, Republicans, they jumped on that and said, aha, here they are, hiding the evidence. They deleted them just like they deleted Hillary's 33,000 emails that would have shown evidence that she's a lizard person that eats babies. Okay, well, evidence of what, right? What kind of evidence, right? These two had conversations where they said that they didn't like Donald Trump. Wow. Okay, so one of them was part of the Mueller team. Well, when they found this, they decided we're going to remove him because he is impartial. Now, I agree with that assessment. You do have to be impartial, which means I could have never been anybody investigating Donald Trump because I'm not impartial. I'm very partial against him. That said, right, they were removed. Peter Strzok was fired, and then Lisa Page, of course, had resigned afterwards. They're no longer with the FBI. They didn't have anything to do with the investigation. Still, no. Republicans, right-wingers, they scream, it's an anti-Trump conspiracy to try to stop Donald Trump from getting elected. Really? Who's president right now? Oh, right, Donald Trump. Good job. The deep state, they really dropped the ball on this one. If their entire conspiracy was to stop Donald Trump from getting elected, it didn't actually work. Fairly obvious. But Jeff, you don't understand. Those missing texts, they're missing. Which means we got to find them because they'll blow the whole conspiracy wide open that the FBI was stacked against Donald Trump the entire time. Which, again, very sad conspiracy indeed. Now, the Justice Department had their internal watchdog, basically, had reviewed whether the texts were intentionally destroyed or hidden, right? Now, their investigation not only recovered the missing messages, but also concluded that the problem had stemmed from an FBI-wide software glitch and was not part of an anti-Trump conspiracy. In fact, you can now read those messages. They have been released to the public. Oops. But they deleted them. It's deleted. No, they're not deleted. You can go and look them up. There's this thing called Google, and you can just look at those messages, and you can read them. Anybody can. They have been made public. You can go peruse them at your leisure, right? So, now, there's also, unsurprisingly, zero evidence that Mueller or anybody acting on his orders were involved with deleting any sorts of messages. You know why? Because that didn't happen. They were not deleted. I mean, this is amazing projection, right? Mueller, he must be a criminal. I don't know about that. No, he's not a criminal. No, he may not be the greatest guy. He's a Republican. He's a registered lifelong Republican. Said some things that might have gotten us into a war with Iraq while he was head of the FBI. So, look, not somebody that I would like to be an ally of, but he seemed to have done a pretty impartial job as special counsel. He did the job that he's supposed to do. He investigated Donald Trump's campaign, and that's it. And then he retired from being special counsel. Wow. But Donald Trump is a criminal. He obstructed justice. He did tax fraud by inflating his assets when trying to get a loan with Deutsche Bank, and then deflating his assets when it came to paying his taxes. That would seem to be tax fraud. You can't really do that. He might have even laundered money through Deutsche Bank. Laundered money for who? I don't know. Could be the Russians. I don't know. We'll have to find out. And by the way, a judge just recently said that the Trump organization now has to give up their financial records. So one way or the other, we are going to find out how much of a criminal Donald Trump is, but there's no doubt in my mind that he is a criminal. Now, that said, he is also incredibly afraid of Mueller, which I find interesting because I don't think there's a whole lot Mueller can add. His investigation was fairly limited to collusion or criminal conspiracy between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And Mueller found that he could not establish enough evidence to show that there was a criminal conspiracy. So Donald Trump should take that and be happy with it. But obviously he's not, and he seems to be incredibly afraid of Mueller because he continues to attack him, even after he's no longer special counsel, which is really strange. I guess he could say, hey, idiots on the Democrats' side, I've already showed you that he clearly obstructed justice in several different times. He committed a felony. I couldn't do anything about it, but maybe you can. So how about you do your job, Nancy? And of course, I mean Nancy Pelosi, right? Now, again, the whole thing is pretty ridiculous. We have the report. We have the investigations. Why aren't the Democrats taking action about it? We already know all this stuff. Why? It's because Nancy Pelosi raises money off Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, ironically, also raises money off Mueller and the Republicans, right? But at the same time, while raising money, is actually, I think, genuinely afraid of testimony. And it really kind of makes you wonder why. Okay. Let's move on here. So both Kellyanne Conway and Ivanka Trump have been accused of violating the Hatch Act. Now, the Hatch Act basically says that employees of the government cannot wear, display, or distribute items with any sort of political slogan or any other materials from a presidential campaign, or use any sort of hashtags related to it, or display non-official pictures of, for example, politicians. So that's basically what the Hatch Act says. Now, first let's go to Ivanka Trump, right? So now a nonpartisan watchdog group has accused Ivanka Trump last week of violating the Hatch Act. Now, this is the ethics watchdog Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Now, they claim that Ivanka Trump violated the Hatch Act by using her Twitter account for partisan political purposes. Now, according to the Office of Special Counsel, the OSC, that's not part of the Mueller report. It's a different Office of Special Counsel. The purpose of a Hatch Act in limiting political activities or federal employees working in the executive branch is to ensure programs are administered in a nonpartisan fashion, to protect employees from political coercion in the workplace, and to ensure that federal employees are advanced based on merit and not based on political affiliation. Now, of course, in the Trump administration, it seems inherently laughable because Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner had gotten their positions not by political affiliation, but by, of course, familial affiliation, right? So that's nepotism. Nobody seems to talk about that, right? Now, Ivanka Trump, according to Crew, used her personal accounts for both official and unofficial things while she was in that position. She's currently still in that position. She had apparently tweeted out an image that featured the president's Make America Great Again campaign slogan, and the tweet referenced the launch of the Trump campaign in 2015 and promised that the best is yet to come. Again, that would appear to be a violation of the Hatch Act because you cannot tweet those photos and you cannot tweet any sort of campaign slogan while you're working in the White House. You are not able to do that, right? But, of course, she did it anyway. And in her Twitter bio, she notes that she's, quote, an advisor to the POTUS on job creation, economic empowerment, workforce development, and entrepreneurship. And if you look at her tweets, of course, they generally relate to official matters. Crew also noted that the tweet came 2 days before President Trump held a launch event for his re-election campaign on June 18th, and was sent just 3 days after OSC issued a public report finding that counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, also violated the Hatch Act using her personal Twitter account and recommending her removal from government service. Now, the official guidelines recommend that violators of the Hatch Act could face removal from federal service, reduction in grade, debarment from federal service for a period not to exceed 5 years, suspension, letter of a reprimand, or a civil penalty not to exceed $1,000. Now, the problem here is, of course, we have a lawless administration. Kellyanne Conway clearly violated the Hatch Act, and let me go to that. Now, she had been found to have done so many Hatch Act violations that basically she has broken the record for Hatch Act violations in the last 30 years. Done more. The House Committee on Oversight and Reform had just voted 25-16 to subpoena Kellyanne Conway after she failed to appear for a hearing back on Wednesday on charges that she violated the Hatch Act at least a dozen times. That's amazing. Now, during the hearing, Special Counsel Henry Kerner, who recommended that Conway be removed from federal service, said that the Office of Special Counsel had never issued 2 reports on the same person in the 30 years it has been independent before Conway. I mean, that's amazing, right? No one before Conway has had that many violations of the Hatch Act. Now, again, this is a law that prohibits executive branch employees from using their official position to influence an election. And yet she has done that, and so has Ivanka Trump. That's amazing. I mean, again, they violate the law, and what's going to happen? They're probably going to get away with it. And that's sort of the sad, reality of living in a lawless administration, or of having a lawless administration. Our country is being run by criminals. Donald Trump is a clear-cut criminal. And look, I don't like to quote Steve Bannon a lot, but even Steve Bannon says, and he largely agrees with Trump on policy issues. He even says, they're a crime family. That's what they do. And Kellyanne Conway is going along with it for some reason, and I don't know why. It could be the fame, it could be the power that gets to her head. I don't know, but for some reason she continues to do this, and maybe it's because there are no consequences. Maybe because we need consequences, because unless we have them, criminals are going to continue to do criminal things. Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break here. I'll come back. I will recaffeinate myself and see if I can make it through the rest of the show. All right, guys. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Comments, questions, super chats, etc. And we'll be right back around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. And we've got a kitty. He did not like the music. So there he is. And there he goes. And he's gone. So that was fun. Come on out. So there's little kitty. And like I said, he's gone. Okay. He's gone. It's okay. He'll be good in here. He's actually generally pretty good around stuff. So he will just end up hiding in the closet or something. That's what he does. Okay. Now that we got that out of our system, let's move on. Let's see about some comments here. Sarge Tech points out that the Supreme Court says no to the citizenship question, which is good. Trump wants to delay it until the SCOTUS is on his side. Don't think that's going to work. I hope it doesn't. So I hope it does not do that. Let's see. LWell says when the Dems with the White House and Senate, they need to adopt a scorched earth policy and put in place laws. We never have to repeat a rogue presidential administration and Republican complicity. I mean, I don't know what kind of like laws you would want to put into place that would prevent that, but I know one way we make sure that we don't elect somebody like Donald Trump by putting in the most establishment candidate that we can. And that's what happened in the last election. But anyway, so let's go in and let's do the next story, Supreme Court. Okay. All right. So there's bad news for everyone that actually cares about fair representation in their elections. Now, the conservative Supreme Court had just ruled against challenge that would actually take on partisan gerrymandering. Now, the vote was, of course, along party lines, 5-4, but the court's more conservative justices in the majority. Now, here's a statement here from, the majority opinion from Chief Justice John Roberts. He said that he said the drafters of the Constitution understood that politics would play a role in drawing election districts when they gave the task to state legislators. Judges, the chief said, are not entitled to second-guess lawmakers' judgments. We conclude that partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts. So take a look at that argument. They're basically saying, we think it's fine. We're not going to answer that question. That's up to the state lawmakers. And what we think the state lawmakers are doing is okay. We have no place to judge on that. Well, wait a minute. Isn't that kind of your job? Aren't you a judge? I mean, look, gerrymandering, the thing about gerrymandering is that it's designed to give one party a clear advantage over the other. Both parties use it to great effect. To me, that is voter suppression. Now, don't we have laws in the books against voter suppression? I mean, here's the thing. What we have now in the system of gerrymandering is that representatives pick their voters instead of the opposite, where you're supposed to actually pick your representatives. I mean, it's crazy that the Supreme Court has made this argument. But I guess it shouldn't be all that surprising that Republicans are using that because they have been, while both parties have done it, Republicans have been immensely successful in using gerrymandering to their advantage electorally. Now, one case decided on Thursday from North Carolina concerned a plan drawn by Republican state lawmakers in 2016. Now, part of that plan included criteria called partisan advantage. Now, come on. You have a plan that clearly points out and lays out that, hey, man, look, I'm going to draw this map that has to have a partisan advantage for us. I want our party. In fact, the state's delegation was okay. Let me go here to a quote from David Lewis. Right now, David Lewis is a Republican member of the General Assembly's redistricting committee, and he said, "quote on these maps in 2011 or in 2016, quote I think electing Republicans is better than electing Democrats. So I drew this map to help foster what I think is better for the country." Hey, man, I'm a Republican, and I think Republicans are absolutely right. So I'm going to take the choice away from you, and I'm going to give it to me. I'm going to make that choice for you. I'm going to choose the people who agree with me and screw everybody else who doesn't agree with me. Why? Because I have the power to be able to do it. Now, the state's congressional delegation was, at the time that these maps were made up of 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats. They already had the power, right? But a key goal, lawmakers said, was to, quote, maintain the current partisan makeup of North Carolina's congressional delegation. Keep everything the same. So, let's see. Basically, he says, well, isn't that great? I get to decide and not the voters. But if it's not obvious enough, he says this, quote, I propose that we draw the maps to give a partisan advantage to 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats, because I do not believe it's possible to draw a map with 11 Republicans and 2 Democrats. He's saying, look, if I could have made it more unfair, well, then I would have. He's basically rubbing it in your face. He's saying, yeah, of course. If I would have been able to make it more unfair, I would have, because I don't want it to be fair. I want to have the advantage. I want the Republicans to have an advantage. I'm a Republican, so that's it. That's all I care about. And, of course, the result is, in 2016, Republican congressional candidates won 53% of the statewide vote. Now, they run 53%, so that's a small majority, right? Now, that means, of course, if everything were fair, they would have about 53% of the representation, right? They ended up winning 10 out of 13 congressional districts. That's 2/3 of all the congressional districts, 77%. Got 53% of the vote, received 77% of the congressional districts. How is that fair? Now, in 2018, the vote was more evenly divided, about 50% each. But Democrats, again, only secured about 3 seats in the congressional delegation. Now, does that sound like democracy? No. And now, look, it's not just Democrats being suppressed, by the way. It's Republicans, too. One case, Lamone versus Benesek, was brought by Republican voters who said that Democratic state lawmakers had, in 2011, had redrawn a district to retaliate against citizens who supported its longtime incumbent, Representative Roscoe Bartlett, who was a Republican. Now, that retaliation, according to the plaintiffs, violated their First Amendment by diluting their voting power. So this was a case brought by Republicans and saying, hey, look, if you can gerrymander this that bad, then, I mean, that takes away my representation. It takes away my voice out of democracy. And so, look, Mr. Bartlett, by the way, say hi to Kitty. Mr. Bartlett, let's go down, Kitty. All right. Now, Mr. Bartlett had won his 2010 race by a margin of 28 percentage points. In 2012, he lost to Representative John Delaney, by a 21-point margin. Now, last year, after the Supreme Court returned the case to the United States District Court in Maryland, a 3-judge panel of that court ruled for the challengers, barred state officials from conducting further congressional elections using the 2011 maps, and ordered them to draw new ones. But now it seems like partisan gerrymandering, according to the court, now is fine. Now, they previously made a decision that it, wasn't necessarily fine, but now that the court has been made up of mostly conservatives, for example, Neil Gorsuch and Judge Kavanaugh, well, they've now made the decision that, oh no, this partisan gerrymandering is absolutely fine. And they're going to use it to their advantage, and they have used it to their advantage all over the country. I mean, they won in 2010. They gerrymandered the hell out of all the districts. And now, hey, they continue to win. And see, here's the thing, right? The reason that they're doing this, that they're using this as a strategy, is because their share of the electorate is declining. And this is the only way for them to stay in power. If you can't beat it, cheat it. And again, the Supreme Court, which is very conservative because Mitch McConnell stole that seat from Merrick Garland, said it was okay as long as it helps their side. Now let's be clear. Partisan gerrymandering has to end, whether it helps Democrats or Republicans. And even Kitty agrees that it should end. Isn't that right, buddy? No more partisan gerrymandering, says a Kitty. And it needs to end because, look, it both helps Democrats and Republicans, and they both use it to suppress those different groups. I'm not interested in helping one team or the other. No, we need everyone to be representative. If we can to be represented, if we ever want to continue to call ourselves a representative democracy. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. We'll come back, and I got to put Kitty somewhere else, and we'll be right back on the nation. All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Let's get to more stories here. No, it's not that I don't like Kitten helping. It's just, it's unprofessional. Besides, I'm worried about watching over him and doing a good show. So I want to make sure to do a good show for you guys. Okay, anyway. Let's move on here. Okay. A 27-year-old Alabama woman was recently indicted on manslaughter charges for the shooting death of her unborn child. Now, the thing is, she's actually not the one who pulled the trigger. So, now let me explain. Now, this is Marsha Jones, who lives in Birmingham, Alabama, and she was 5 months pregnant on December 4th. Now, during this time, an argument had broken out between her and another woman outside of a Dollar General. Now, AL.com doing most of the reporting here. Now, that fight led 23-year-old Ebony Jemison to pull out a gun and shoot Jones in the stomach. Now, the mother survived the shooting, of course, but she ended up having a miscarriage because of the gunshot. So now imagine this, right? You get into a fight, somebody pulls a gun, shoots you in the stomach, and already this is a crazy story. Okay, but it gets worse. Jemison was charged with manslaughter, right? This is a person who pulled out the gun. However, a grand jury failed to indict her, and her charge was dismissed. So, the shooter shoots this woman and then just gets off. But they let her walk. They let her walk. Now, why? Well, apparently because Jemison had claimed that she had not been the one who started the altercation, that it was actually Jones who started this altercation, and she feared for her life, so she used a gun in self-defense on a pregnant woman. So, self-defense, right? Now, while the shooter went free, Pleasant Grove Police Lieutenant Danny Reed told the outlet that a grand jury would consider charges for the mother. So, now, wait a minute. If the shooter gets off free, why can't Jones get out free? Or would, like, maybe if she instigated the fight, just kind of let it go or give him a citation or something like that. No. They have to indict her because she ended up having a miscarriage. It's crazy. Now, the investigation, and this is what Reed said back in December when this happened, showed that the only true victim in this was the unborn baby. It was the mother of the child who initiated and continued the fight, which resulted in the death of her own unborn baby. Now, the mother apparently is not a victim, even though she was the one who ended up getting shot in the stomach. No, it's the fetus that's the real victim here. That's amazing. And, of course, they blame the mother. On Wednesday, a grand jury had indicted Jones on a manslaughter charge. Wow. Okay. Now, Reed, and again, here's his comment just recently. He said, let's not lose sight that the unborn baby is the victim here. She had no choice in being brought unnecessarily into a fight where she was relying on her mother for protection. So again, she gets shot, has a miscarriage, is blamed for the death of the fetus, even though she didn't actually shoot the child or the fetus. She didn't shoot herself in the stomach. She got shot by somebody else, and now the mother is in jail. What is going on, Alabama? What are you doing? Apparently, you can get pregnant or be pregnant, get shot or assaulted, and if you happen to have started it or whatever, and you happen to have a miscarriage, well, now we're going to criminalize you. We're going to throw you in jail. This is what happens when you have personhood laws, fetal personhood laws, right? I mean, again, this is gross. The shooter doesn't get in trouble at all because of, I guess, weird stand your ground stuff. It's super pro-life of them. But the pregnant woman who lost her child due to this, which has to be first incredibly damaging, is now getting punished because she allegedly started that fight. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now, of course, the state's getting a lot of pushback from pro-choice groups. Let me go to a quote here from Amanda Reyes, the executive director of the Yellowhammer Fund. She said, quote, "The state of Alabama has proven yet again that the moment a person becomes pregnant, their sole responsibility is to produce a live, healthy baby, and that it considers any action a pregnant person takes that might impede in that live birth to be a criminal act." So note what she's saying there. They have reduced women, the state of Alabama has reduced women to baby factories. Apparently, that's the only focus they have. You better have that baby. You better have that baby. Okay, well, what happens when that baby comes out? Oh, we don't care about that. Just have that baby. We're going to make you have that baby. And if somehow you mess up and that fetus dies, it gets miscarried in the womb, well, then we're going to criminalize you. We're going to throw you in prison. I mean, that's insanity. Now, AL.com reported that Reyes also said, "Tomorrow it will be another black woman, maybe for having a drink while pregnant, and after that, another for not obtaining adequate prenatal care." I mean, how far does this go? I mean, this is you want to talk about slippery slope? This is a slippery slope. Is anything that you do for that could cause a miscarriage? Can you be criminalized or penalized for that? Can you be thrown in prison for that? What if you slip in the shower? Oh, man, it's your fault. You didn't put down a shower mat. You slip, causes a miscarriage. Now you're going to prison. I mean, this is insanity. And, of course, it's more geared towards African Americans, right? And African American women, of course, are subject to more poverty, that they have lack of, health care. And so, of course, they're going to end up being criminalized far more than your average white family. And maybe that, of course, is the point. I mean, look, this is gross, right? It's not only is it big government, right, getting in the way of, you and your doctor and saying what you can and can't do with your body. But not only that, but you're now throwing people in prison for a miscarriage, which, of course, is not always somebody's fault. Well, I mean, she started the fight. She shouldn't have started the fight then. I mean, she was pregnant. You can't do anything when you're pregnant, apparently. And I guess maybe that's what the right wing wants you to do, barefoot and pregnant. And you don't leave the house. You don't do anything to endanger that fetus, because if you do, we're going to criminalize you. We're going to throw you in prison. Man. And look, the final irony here is guaranteed if that baby had been born, and, that black baby, right, and had been killed later on by a white supremacist like Dylan Roof with a gun, the same people who claim that they wanted to protect that life when it was in the womb would say, what are you going to do, right? Or if that child had been born and then grew up and been shot by a cop while he was unarmed, they would say, must have deserved it. Must have deserved it. I mean, that's how pro-life these people are. Okay, one more here. Let's go with Bernie. Okay. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders continues to be asked the same question over and over again. Will you, drop out of the race if you're not the nominee? Now, he was asked once again by MSNBC reporter Casey Hunt, and he had this response. Take a look.
If it's clear that you are not going to be the Democratic nominee, will you leave the race before the convention?
I intend to be the Democratic nominee.
But if you're not, you stated last time, and some people say that you hurt Hillary Clinton's candidacy.
Well, no, some people say that if maybe that system was not rigged against me, I would have won the nomination and defeated Donald Trump. That's what some people say. So I think we're going to play it out. I think I am excited.
And so you would take the risk.
I am excited.
Donald Trump
are you
an
asking that of every candidate?
I'm saying if it's clear that you are not going to win the nomination, will you concede?
Well, right now we are planning to win the Democratic nomination. And I'm proud of the campaigns we're running in Iowa and in New Hampshire, and I'm proud of our grassroots support and the fact that we have 1 million volunteers. So our goal right now is to win it. And by the way, as you may know, poll after poll shows what against Trump? Shows me beating Trump by 8, 9, or 10 points. So we're going to beat Trump. We're going to win the Democratic nomination.
Are you a Democrat?
Of course I'm a Democrat. This is a Democratic national convention, a Democratic primary here, right?
All right, that's an easier answer to that question than I feel like we got in 2016.
That entire interview makes me roll my eyes. Come on, here we go. He's the only one that continues to get asked this ridiculous question. I mean, let's just stop and examine how ridiculous that is, for one, right? Before we get into the answers. You realize this is a guy who, in most aggregate polling, or at least the aggregate polling as of right now, is number 2, trailing behind Biden. Now, Elizabeth Warren has been rising in the polls as well, taking a lot of support, I think, from Joe Biden and some of the other establishment candidates. But yet she's in a close third. In some polls, of course, she has leapfrogged and become second. Now, are they asking her that question? Well, no, that's ridiculous. Why would they ask her that question? Are they asking Joe Biden that question? He's losing support. Are they asking Robert Francis O'Rourke that question? No. Bernie Sanders is the only one they ask that question about. And again, it's insanity. They continue to only ask the question of one single candidate. It's almost as if, like, They're targeting him on purpose with these ridiculous questions. The one before, of course, was, oh, you're going to release your tax returns? You're going to release your tax returns, Bernie? Well, has Joe Biden never released his tax returns yet? I mean, nobody's asking for that. No, they don't ask anything of those questions of anybody else because the whole point is to go after Bernie Sanders. And look, let's go with that tweak at the end, right? Are you a Democrat? Oh, okay, what kind of question is that? He's running in the Democratic primary. He has already agreed to run as a Democrat. So, for all intents and purposes, in this race, he is a Democrat. But it's another example of the kind of questions, the loaded questions that he continues to be asked during this primary. But here's the thing, right? Here's the reason. They want to get Bernie Sanders with negative headlines. The media is against Bernie Sanders. Because, look, almost right after this happened, you had article after article with the headline, Testy Bernie snaps at reporter, right? Or Bernie Sanders goes after reporter. Then you had the tweet itself from Casey Hunt, who interviewed him, said, Bernie Sanders won't commit to bowing out before the convention if it becomes clear he won't win. Now, what is that? I mean, the whole idea is, and it's a garbage question based on the idea or the assumption that it was Bernie Sanders' fault that Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. That's what it's based on. That's why they don't ask anybody else. They don't ask Joe Biden. No, they don't. Okay, and go back to 2016. They don't ask, Lincoln Chafee. He ran in the Democratic Party in 2016 in the primary. They don't ask anybody else that question because it's a question designed to go after Bernie Sanders because they want to continue to blame him for Hillary Clinton losing 2016. And here's the thing, right? Hillary Clinton did not lose because of Bernie Sanders. Did not lose because of Russia or Comey. No. She actually did win the popular vote, right? As, of course, Hillary Clinton supporters tend to point out. Well, she won the popular vote, right, but she didn't win the Electoral College. And why is that? It's because she had the wrong message. She was the wrong candidate at the wrong time with the wrong message. She said, I am not for radical change. I am for the status quo. I like the way things are, and I will do almost nothing to change them. You know who else has that message in this election right now? Joe Biden. Joe Biden literally went and told donors after he had begged a Republican donor for money, saying, I need you, Republican mega donor, billionaire. I need you in this race. He then told other Wall Street donors, don't worry, if you elect me, nothing will fundamentally change. Nothing will change. And now, in 2016, American people were so hungry for change, they voted in a monster like Donald Trump, who, by the way, has continued to be the establishment. The people, I don't think their desire for change is any less than they are right now. I mean, look at what the conversation is. Look at how the conversation has shifted to the left. Now you have candidates that are out there that are supporting Medicare for all or some sort of version of it. You have people that, are really talking about the Green New Deal. You have, a lot of politicians. We had the first Democratic debate last night. There was 10 people there. But Bernie Sanders, his presence was felt throughout the entire debate. Why? It's because he changed the narrative. And he did so even though he lost to Hillary Clinton in the election. Now, of course, you'll point out that, and a lot of these pundits they said, well, Bernie Sanders says the election was rigged against him. No, he said, as a response to the statement from Casey Hunt that said, some people say you hurt Hillary Clinton's candidacy. And he rebuts and says, well, some people said that maybe if the system wasn't rigged, I would have won the nomination and defeated Donald Trump. That's not him coming out and saying, I say that the system was 100% rigged against me. No, he was pushing back on this ridiculous narrative that the establishment continues to push, partly because they want to push somebody like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, that it was Bernie Sanders' fault that she didn't win the nomination, or I'm sorry, that she didn't win against Donald Trump, when in reality, again, it was not his fault, it was her fault. She was the wrong kind of candidate. Look, the people want change, right? The establishment and the establishment media, well, they don't want change. And so they will continue to hit Bernie Sanders with these ridiculously loaded questions. And then, of course, when Bernie Sanders gets tired of it, as most of us would, then they will write smear article after smear article about how cranky and how angry and sexist and finger-waggy Bernie Sanders is. How much he was interrupting that poor reporter, Casey Hunt. He was interrupting her. What a sexist. Those articles are already pouring in. They're already here. And of course, that was the entire point. Their disdain for Bernie Sanders, they can't hide it anymore. It's so nakedly obvious. Okay. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Hopefully you liked the little kitty. I'm gonna have to go back and spend some time with him after I get done with my editing. Guys, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Please, of course, like and share our videos. Very, very important that you do. It helps me take care of Kitty. So patreon.com/TYTNation also. That's how you can support the show. And you can also support us by joining as a channel member here on YouTube and all sorts of different ways to support us. Of course, there's Venmo, there's our PayPal. All those links you can find in the description of this video, this live stream. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We'll be back tomorrow. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. The debates are tonight, so we'll be watching, and hopefully you'll be watching too. See you guys tomorrow.